a lot of people yelling at each other, screaming, and they seem that they want to punch each other. Sometimes happen. And so this girl, her name is Caroline Chamanska, she was facilitating the meeting and told everybody to sit down and shut up. She just keeps on saying, sit down and shut up, sit down and shut up. And she did it for a while, and everybody sat down, and they were quiet for about a few minutes, except for one person up into the hill was talking to himself, saying things like blah, 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 blah. And he was kind of like laughing to himself, but everybody else was quiet, and they were looking at each other and looking at the skies. And then the moment of silence was over, and so they got up and they started talking to each other, and they were able to make a decision. And so it happened, and so I just was puzzled why people were in a different mood before, and they were totally different after. And so I started making research slowly because I didn't know what to ask. And so I find out that there is a process in psychology called the insight, which is study, and that is how we come into the creative process, also known as the eureka. And I have this book, it's called the Eureka, how understanding and using the power of intuition. There are a lot of books out there that talks about that process, and it's about the insight. It has many names, and some of them even has um, spiritual names like the light within or other names. But the bottom line is that there is a very simple process. So the when we have the insight, we have a new creative process, and in order to find out the solutions out there of changing the world, we don't have a manual, so we had to create a manual. We had to create the solution, and so the more we get into this creative process, and the answers that's going to reveal to ourselves, and so we want to be able to work on it. And so I have spoken to many other people that work, like for example, for NASA, and they say they use similar process, although they were not aware they were using the process. And so basically, the process is very simple. When we are silent, when we have a silent mind, but that is after you have a problem. When you work on a problem, first you have to study the problem, read the problem, look it up from different angles, and all you have to do is take a moment of silence or do something, take a walk. In NASA, what they do is they working in their computers, and they just become very entrenched in what they're doing, and so they go for a smoke break. And while they're having a smoke break, all of a sudden it happened to them. And so it is that moment of silence that happens after. So they have done MRIs, and they have found out that our brain instead of slowing down, it actually increases, and especially on the right side of the brain. There has done some research by Rebecca Sachs from, I believe it's one of the Ivy Leagues, and they have found it increases when you have a question and you just do something else or just stand still. The right side of the brain, right here above the ear, which is called the right temporoparietal junction, or RTPJ. Yeah, that is it lights up. And so according to some researchers, it's because on the right side of the brain we have long nerve endings. And so when we are in the conscious state, we normally using a part of our brain which is not normally, especially if we're speaking or talking to ourselves, we probably will be using the area in the left side which is called Broca's area, where the language is. And so which has short nerve endings. And the right side, there is long nerve endings, and what happens is the brain is accessing many places, and sometimes the answer may not be come out right away. The answer may take maybe a day or two, or a week, but eventually you're gonna have that moment. Probably some of you have had that moment, like when you went shopping and then you realize that after you shop or something that you should have done it in a different way. It's, oh, but that's not in a very pleasing way, but it's kind of sort of like a eureka moment, but too late. But the thing is to take the moment, study the problem, let go one way or the other, and then the process is going to happen by itself. Einstein, the way he had his insights was he will study the problem and he will play the violin. And when he was playing the violin, things came to him. Uh, Thomas Alva Edison, he did another method which is called hypogagnia or lucid sleeping. He would sit on a couch and he will have some roller bearings in his hand, and underneath there was a metal plate, and he will sit in a silent room, and so he will be sitting there with the roller bearings, and he will kind of like relax and try to sleep. And when he go limp, his hand will drop, and the roller bearings will drop into the plate, and he will get startled and he wake up. So he was a lucid sleep, and whatever was in his mind, he will jot it down. No matter what, he will jot it down and he will try to figure out what does it mean.
Who was that?
That was Thomas Alva Edison. Edison. Yeah. Um, so the creative mind, the creative process, sometimes it is not specifically that you're gonna have the idea on the conscious level. Sometimes it is a message. For example, the person that discovered a formula, he was trying to benzene. That's the formula, the benzene formula. He was trying to figure out uh, how to put the structure of the formula, and he couldn't put it together. And so he kept on dreaming on a snake eating its own tail. And so it just kept happening to him, and he couldn't figure it out up until the, the point that he figured out that that was the structure of the atoms of the benzene formula. And so you have to be able to see that within the creative process, there could be something that does not make sense at that point. But if you search and you look into it, there may be some kind of message. And so there is the revelation that happens. Any questions so far? Okay. So, what's the best way to help your mind to go into that state? Well, there is many methods, but the best method that I devise is that before meetings, people need to be relaxed because when you are in a state of anxiety, you are less likely to have an insight. You need to be calm, you need to be serene, happy, and you'll have most likely to have an insight. And so the best method that device is that if before the meeting we get into the practice of having some kind of meditation or relaxation or just sleeping, laying down there doing nothing, just practicing, then the book goes for mindful meditation for 20 minutes, and that is going to help. So as long as we are calm in any method, because even exercising will help, because what happens with the anxiety is that our cortisol goes high, and that's what happens in meetings, that people start getting frustrated, and then cortisol starts going into the bloodstream, and that is a stress hormone. One way to decrease the cortisol is just by taking deep breaths, because when we take deep breaths, we oxygenate our brain, and the brain, especially the prefrontal cortex, on the back of our brain, we have the signals that keeps us in survival mode, and the prefrontal cortex is the one that says, "Oh, wait, this is a false," or you don't have to be so worried. And so we need to invigorate the prefrontal cortex by taking deep breaths. And they have done researches. There was a person, his name was Phineas Cage, that he was working on a railroad, and he was a very calm and serene person. But the moment he was working on the railroad, a spike blew up and went into his prefrontal cortex, and he had a latching here in the prefrontal cortex. And then after that, he became a very erratic person. He couldn't have control over himself. And so they found out that the prefrontal cortex is part of what makes us human, that makes us calm and serene. And the best way to invigorate that is by taking deep breaths. Very simple. So if I was going to design well, that depends on the group, but I would have 20 minutes of meditation before, at least up to an hour. Then just go into the meeting, start the agenda, whichever it goes, and then be very sensitive. Maybe have somebody appointed anxiety monitor. If we have the stacker, maybe somebody's the anxiety monitor, or maybe some more another lovely name.
Mellow facilitator.
Yeah, the insightful person or something like that, and say, okay, wait, let's take a couple of minutes. And so when there is a problem, somebody presents an issue, all we have to do is just take a few minutes or a seconds or a pause. Let that part of the brain work, and how long it is, that depends on the practice of the people, and what kind of problem are you working on, because some problems they may take a long time, they may not be solved in the first week. I like to use the process kind of like a organic, to be sort of like agriculture. When you plant, you sow, you plant, you plow, you harvest, and then uh, you separate the wheat from the chaff. So that is the process that I like to see. I like to call it the seasoning. Some of the ideas they need to be seasoned some more, and maybe sometimes they need to be seasoned in small groups, because when you have a larger group, there is gonna be a lot of chatter, and you want to minimize the chatter. So a good group to work on a problem is about 5 people, because you have enough difference of opinion, but not too much. Because when you have a less, sometimes a group of 3 will work, uh, but depending on the problem. Whenever you're making a small group, where let's say you have the problem and the problem is getting too big, then what you need to do is send it to a smaller group for them to work. And you want to make the group normally in odd numbers, 3 or 5. And the reason is that because you have two or pairs, they're going to pair up and they're going to be talking to each other. So if you have the third wheel or the fifth wheel, it's gonna always gonna be interjecting automatically, organically. And so same process applies to the small group, that if they just take a pause or do something else, then they'll discover that their brains are working much harder.
Do you have a handout we can take?
No, actually everything is kind of impromptu, but since this is a project, give me your information and I'll send you sources, videos. So let's say I got reading, 20 minutes. So Eureka. Eureka means I found it. It's Greek for I found it. So part of the process is there is a commentaries. There is one by BBC. It's called Horizon: The Creative Brain, How Insight Works. This book over here, and also Alan Alda has a nice that is PBS documentary, and that is called The Human Spark, Episode 3, Brain Matters. And it explains, if you don't want to read, you just want to sit and relax and watch how they done the research. And so this right here, I hope what we were talking before, that as Delphine was saying, that maybe we can work as something, and hopefully this kind of like a propagates, and we can work on that, so that it not only works for this, not that, but actually that hopefully propagates through other areas, and so we can have a discontinuing discussion, and see how it works for people, and have a more defined manual. Here is a process of creativity. So that's very simple. Any discussions, ideas, questions?
Yeah, I have a question. You said that when you observed someone doing that at the Occupy movement, they were doing it right after there was a conflict. And do you think that this practice is especially effective when applied in those moments of conflict, or do you think it's generally a good idea to do whenever you're switching gears?
I believe that if we have the practice before to go into silence and just practice to listen, because when you go into silence, if you're able to go into silence, it's the most difficult thing you can do because you always have mind chatter. And just try, just sit quiet, and so you'll start thinking about whether you pay your bills, whether you did something, what am I doing here, blah blah, and then probably you blanked out. And then once you blank out for a few moments, you start going again. And so this is a practice, sort of like a exercising for the fact. And also when there is conflict, so you sense conflict, that people are getting anxious, then you just take a pause. That's it. Very simple. You take a pause. You say, let's have a moment of silence, and about a minute, 2 minutes, depending of the facilitator and how he's sensing the amount of silence that is needed, then you continue. Because my experience was after there was a conflict, and after people were gonna punch each other, then they used the silence and it worked. So it works either way. However, they probably would have not start threatening each other if they had a practice with themselves, if they learn how to listen to each other.
You talk about the power of now, right?
Well,
Being present and being silent, being able to slow down.
right. That's
The peace, when you have the peace that passes all understanding, which you get through the Holy Spirit, then
well, yeah, that's a spiritual way of saying it. Yeah, sure, why not?
thanks.
But I've been using um, quoting some research that I've been doing from psychology. But yes, that's a different language. And what he was saying, the spirit, and I was saying that there is the different terms that you can sort of like relate into. Like some people, you were calling the spirit, some people call it the inner light. Whatever it is, you just have to be able to blank out mind and allow other parts of your process to continue. And that does not mean that you are going to be subjected to some trickery, because after that creative process happens, you still have to discern, find out what is the message, because that message could be different. And so you just gotta work on that. Yeah.
It's not something you. It's not a goal. It's something that you are. Peace.
Well, that
Yeah. See, when you're at peace and everything is around, the chaos is all around you.
yes.
You know, like the Mayan, the Toltecs, all that. Yeah.
So yes, when you are calm, you are more likely to have the creative process. The insight.
In other words, you know, it's like the mind is a tool we use it or it uses us. You step out of the mind, which was given to us when we were little, all the way up to the main, like Toltec. You know, where are you from?
I am from Los Angeles.
You Mayan Aztec or
No, I am Pai Pai.
Pai Pai?
Yeah.
What is that?
That's the indigenous from Baja. One of the indigenous from Baja California.
I think I like that idea of starting a meeting like that, because a lot of times when people come to a meeting, they're rushing and they're very anxious because there's a lot of anxiety being like. I think that would get everybody kind of
It's like
centered.
focusing your intent. When your
Yeah.
intent is the same,
Yeah.
So are
everybody
you
works together.
suggesting like actually scheduling these into a general assembly or other like work group meeting, action council meeting, where like say at the beginning of the meeting there's 20 minutes of meditation, and then after each proposal is introduced, there's 5 minutes of silence for people to quiet their mind.
Exactly. That's one way. If 5 minutes works, use 5 minutes or 3 minutes. I'll say around 3 minutes
3 minutes.
between ideas.
I was kind
Yeah.
of thinking about that. You know how we start our meetings with shares and stuff like that? That it might be good to have the shares and then after that, because it's the people that arrive late that are the most, anxious and stuff. So if you do it first and then the late people come, they still, and I think they bring with them that energy of anxiety. So it might be good to have your share part and then
Right.
then have your silence when you're switching from the loving part of a meeting to the working part of a meeting.
Okay. Let's take a moment right there. I think what you said kind of like I was triggering something. One other way would also be those people that come late, sort of like a quieter brain before they come into the meeting. So they come to the meeting, make a pit stop, quiet down, and then incorporate themselves into the meeting that is already calm. So they don't bring that anxiety with them. Sort of like a leave it outside, like outside the circle.
I really like that.
I know one technique that just because of time conservation issues, sometimes you're in an issue where you gotta conserve on time, and just learn how to meditate your breath. Take about 4 or 5 deep breaths, slow your heart rate. That'll get you to that state, and then go on. Because if you're talking about like a lot of issues at once, time can become a thing. So if you can learn how to do it quickly, it can help mitigate that effect as well. So sometimes just 4 or 5 deep breaths, take it then, just you can look good, out was bad, get your heart rate down, you'll get there fairly quick.
I think it takes time, yes, but it's an investment. Otherwise, you spend that time, you know. It's a bad way to spend
That
time.
tends to be the way that the meeting flows without any other structure because I mean people gather and they're talking, chit-chatting, smoking, eating, all this different stuff is going on, and then the meeting starts abruptly and then it's like one thing after another, bam, 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 bam.
Oh, look.
So it would be great to have more space
Oh,
to
hey
just
guys.
apply them.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that's true.
The silence makes the creative process that's part of it.
Right. Right.
I think it gives you a chance to. I think I'm particularly interested in this idea for when you're having conflict. You know, to take get that little record needle out of that little groove. And I think this silence too gives you a chance to think about another person's viewpoint instead of just yours.
Seems to me like it could prevent a lot of conflict, even if the participants of the meeting are not skilled in listening. Because it's structured to quiet everyone's mind.
And to refocus on the love that brought you together or something in the first place.
It's like you can say something like aggressive somewhat, but if you do it full of confidence, you understand what you're saying. said,
Anybody wants to share maybe a particular experience and when they had an aha moment?
I usually have them when I take a bath.
See, there you go.
When I'm going to bed at night, it takes a long time to fall asleep. A lot goes on.
I swim every day, and I find that that's a time when my thoughts really flow well.
She said, we couldn't hear you.
I swim every day, and I find that's a time when my thoughts flow well, and
Awesome.
I can think through things. It's a very calm time. Good stuff.
Swimming, yeah.
I think dancing is really a good way to get energy flow, and I believe that dancing is integral to human society. I really feel like a lot of people have gotten away from that, but if you study different societies, most of them, especially the so-called primitive societies, it was integral to almost everything they did to prepare for all different kinds of whatever activities, war maybe, but also just hunting and gathering of any kind. And I dance a lot, and it really helps me. I really feel like the earth needs to be danced upon. I really feel like we get energy from the earth and we give back energy. It really frees the mind, and if you open your mind, you can things will flow into you while you're dancing.
Also, I'm wondering what the person would be called who leads the moments of silence and guides people to a quieter mental space. Did you have a name for that? You said you called them something, but I forgot.
Yeah, something positive, but I don't have the main name in mind yet. We may call it I need some help. Let's take a moment.
Meditation's a good word, but you already have a facilitator in a meeting. It sounds like a separate person that's kind of watching the anxiety level of the group members and the group itself.
Well, there's a vibes watcher that's kind of it's in a lot of different versions of decision making. A vibes watcher looks at the climate of the group and how people interact with each other and how people seem to be how the emotional climate seems to be. But then this person would also be focused on just helping each person reach this silent mind, creative mind state. And maybe they could be the same person, and maybe they could even be the same as the facilitator. But when the facilitator doesn't focus on those things, we should have someone else who does. That the facilitator recognizes and allows to lead that time.
Right.
Okay, so what's the facilitator doing, and if somebody else is doing it, what is the job designation that the facilitator is supposed to be doing? And to me, that just seems to go along with running a meeting.
But the facilitator's really good process.
Another name for vibes watcher is empath, and I really like having that incorporated in a meeting structure, even though I haven't really seen it practiced much in Occupy. But I would like to practice that when I start facilitating meetings. I'd like there to be an empath role, either for the facilitator themselves or someone else who works in tandem with the facilitator. Someone who keeps an eye on how each person is doing and how people interact as a group.
There might be different skills that is, one person might be better at facilitating, another person might be better at taking members to emotional punch.
But having them integrate better, I think, is needed because most meetings are run in a chop shop kind of way where the facilitator is like, okay, we're out of time. Next, and then it's just one thing after another, bam, 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 and we don't have time for quieting our minds. And a lot of times it's kind of jarring.
Okay, I don't know if you ever written something like a small phrase and it's really so good, you work it out and then you lose it in the computer and then you cannot make it right away because there is that moment. And so if you change something into the process, the outcome may be different. So like right now, I see a little bit of that chop, chop, chop. So instead of having a stacker, you be the own stacker, take a pause, and what you do in taking the pause and you interject, you will have that pause in your head, and you probably have a totally different outcome. So let's try that. When we continue with the issue right now is what should we call that um, function? The name of the function should it be empath or vice? And so go on.
Well, I think the person that guides this process would be more like um, a meditation guide or a creativity guide. I like guide.
Me too. I like guide.
How about guru?
No, I was avoiding that one.
That one's not a good
Or docent.
The only people here from
Docent.
right now are you
It's a guide. Helps people learn about whatever they're trying to teach people. So you know.
If you want to have the two roles be integrated, it might make sense to call the second role something similar to facilitator or mediator or something to do with communication. That's the goal.
What are you trying to, I don't understand, you're trying to find a name for something?
A name for somebody that will be looking out for people that they need to take the moment of silence when it's to interject and say, okay, let's write
Oh,
down.
yeah, I just mean, okay.
Yeah, like when
You're
people
looking for somebody to be like a,
so see, like
Policeman?
in a decision. No policeman.
Oh, I forgot the police were there. They're gone. The police are gone.
you just put a name on something, you really cause a problem.
Yeah, peacekeeper. I was a peacekeeper.
So that's what they call the military. And what's that mean?
Redefine the word.
Yeah, it could be a good thing. Peacekeeper.
Yes.
How about mirror? Peace mirror.
I think when we're talking about mirrors and moods, it's more like the empath's role and less like the quieting, helping people quiet their minds. I mean, they could be the same person because I think it takes a sensitive person to do both.
Yeah. Well, actually, you can walk. If you're at peace, you can walk up to somebody, and if they're in tune, and you stand there like that, it's like that. They're all over. If you're quiet, they'll pick up that spirit, and it comes that same.
You could go with peace leader and get away from the whole peacekeeping, that connotation in the military.
You can have more than one. Several.
Whatever word we use is a word that, by repeating itself, it sort of like helps the focus. And empath, I think, is a good one because we lack some kind of empathy in the decision making. We have an intellectual or over intellectualization of decision making, and we don't have the empathy, feel for the people that there is this something of value on the emotion of other people that this may work. Like sort of like when we personally have a craving, we don't know what we want, but we know we have the craving until the moment we actually do eat whatever we are craving, then we feel out that that's what we were craving. And so I believe empath sounds good. Peace steward rather than leader. Steward.
Or peace guide with people.
Yeah.
I like Stewart.
Let's call him Betazoid or Deanna.
There's police horses right there. We can't see it on the stream. I can't get the light right.
Tell them to come over here and have some silence.
Have some silence.
For more judgmental.
Oh, you can see it now.
But
So let's see. Right there. There's police horses right there.
Hmm.
I think police horses are terrible. They should not use horses. That's
we've had some violent incidents here.
it's very scary. I'm terrified of horses because of the police. Huh?
She said she's terrified of horses because of the police.
Yeah, they're really scary. When they try to stop you with the horses, I was in Anaheim. I was trying to film. There was some weapon I've never seen before, and I was trying to film it, and they kept putting the horses in front of me, blocking me off, and I just kept walking, and it was scary.
Also, silence. There is other part of it, which I didn't speak about the mirror neurons, in what we're talking about empathy. Um, it has been studied that if somebody is going through pain, or let's say somebody at a tarantula is going up their arm, and so they have done research with MRIs that when that tarantula is going up the arm, certain uh, brain cells are going to light up in certain areas, and people that are watching, they have similar brain areas that are lighting up, and that's called the mirror cells. So, and what Lara was saying, that people come all haywire, and so they people are emulating that, they're mirroring that, and so also for quieting down, if everybody's quiet and only one person is having anxiety, eventually that person is gonna mirror the quietness of a group because it can be amplified. So rather than telling people shut up, then just be quiet. That's all. Be silent and mirror that, amplify it. So there is another technique that can come out from silence.
Yeah, it's quite evident that when one person is agitated and stressed and maybe aggressive, it really builds to goes both ways. So it would make sense that if the person was calm, it would be a reflection of that.
I wanted to say also that although I'm just learning about mindfulness meditation, one thing that I've found is often an element of that is, besides focusing on one's breathing, is focusing on one's connection to the earth. So I mean, it's about being grounded, like feeling your roots extending from your body to the earth, and feeling the nurturing of Mother Earth. And that could be incorporated
should check the mute button. Oh, it was muted. Oops. Oops.
I sense that there was a complete change even in the eyes of the people. It's like I was more totally different in the eyes. I could see that in the eyes. Um, in what you were saying, that you're waiting there for the TV to reveal itself. So you're waiting for a revelation of what is going to be the answer of the problems of society, how we're going to solve them. Because my personal belief, now I'm going to talk a little bit spiritual, I believe that whatever it is, I don't know if there is a God, I don't deny it, nor try to prove it. I just stay away from it. But this type of practice, I believe life in itself is an experience. And I believe in the experiential. And so this experience that I have occupied Los Angeles has led me to do this research and bring the experience to you. And what Nara was saying is that she's waiting for the experience, waiting in silence for the answer. And that is really powerful.
And I notice we're more comfortable with silence now. Having done that, because we just had silence. Nobody jumped in until I did to point out that nobody was jumping Thank you, Sergey.
Thank you for being my audience. It means a lot to me.
I'm going to bring these ideas to Occupy and everywhere else that I do work.
I'll be attending an environmental gathering in Indiana in October, and I'm part of the planning committee for the weekend-long event. And I will do a workshop. It's very helpful. We have people come from all different avenues of activism there. And I think this will be really great things to explore. So I will work on it until then to be good at the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sorry I have to go.
Thank you. Well, maybe one more silence and we out of here. How about that? About a half a minute this time.
Sorry?
Thank you, Sergey.
Thank you.
1/4 of this original one.
Okay, now I'm gonna stop live streaming for a while. I don't know when I'll come back. There's another live streamer. She's on livestream.com, and her channel is Mary Jane. So you guys might want to check out Mary Jane's channel. I don't know if she's streaming right now or not, but she's like me, on and off all weekend long. Follow Citizen Streams to see if different live streams around the world.
Do you want me to take this back to the house?
Yeah, sure. If everybody's got their email at least, right? All right.
And on Tuesday I'll put this on YouTube so people can watch it on YouTube.
Okay, yes, put it on YouTube.
Yeah, but I probably won't get a chance until Tuesday to do it.
All right.
Because I have to be on the computer to get it from Ustream to YouTube.
Oh, okay. At least you wanna borrow my computer.
Maybe.
Oh, somebody left it. There's a video.
So livestream.com, channel named Mary Jane. She's also here live streaming this weekend. So leave your browser open. I mean, I could be back in 5 minutes. I could be back in half an hour. I really don't promise anything. Bye, guys.